When the IRS froze both their accounts, they had no idea the tip came from me, the man they betrayed. I never shouted. I never confronted. I didn't have to. All it took was patience and paperwork. Revenge doesn't always come in flames and fury. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, in the form of a neatly written email sent to the right department. Emily said she needed space. And Chris, my best friend, said he just wanted me to understand. What I didn't understand back then was that space meant my girlfriend's new address was wherever my best friend happened to be. But that's fine. Because when two people build their new life on lies and undeclared cash, space becomes the least of their problems. When they started posting pictures of their luxury side hustle, I smiled. Every photo, every brag, every careless caption, I saved them all. Months later, when the IRS sent them that lovely little letter with 6 figures worth of consequences, they still had no idea who pulled the string. Revenge, I've learned, isn't about rage. It's about balance. And this was balance delivered by mail. My name's Jake. I've never thought of myself as the kind of guy who ends up in a revenge story. I had a decent life, a stable job in accounting, a small apartment downtown, and a close circle of friends I'd known since college. Among them, Chris stood out. He was the loud one, the confident one, the guy everyone seemed to like instantly. We met during freshman year, bonded over late-night pizza and failed exams, and stuck together through everything that came after. And then there was Emily. I met her at a friend's barbecue 2 years ago. She had that kind of smile that makes you forget what you were about to say. Smart, funny, independent, the kind of person who filled every room she walked into. Chris introduced us, actually. He was the one who convinced me to talk to her when I was too nervous to make a move. The three of us became inseparable. Movie nights, weekend trips, birthdays, we were a little trio. People used to joke that if they couldn't find me, they should check wherever Chris and Emily were because I was probably there too. And for a long time that was true. I thought I had it good. A loyal best friend. A girlfriend who said she loved me. A simple, predictable life I didn't feel the need to question. Emily worked in marketing, freelancing for small businesses. She was ambitious, always chasing new ideas while I was more practical. Steady paycheck, long-term savings, nothing flashy. She used to tease me for being too careful, but I didn't mind. Stability was what I valued most. Looking back, there were signs. Tiny, almost invisible cracks in what I thought was a perfect picture. Emily started staying late at work more often. She'd say she was meeting clients or handling urgent campaigns. Chris would cancel on me saying he was exhausted or busy helping someone move. Nothing major, just little things you brush off when you trust people. There's this strange comfort that comes from believing you're safe. You stop questioning, you stop watching closely. And that's exactly what I did. At the time, if someone had told me that the two people I trusted most were quietly dismantling my life behind my back, I would have laughed it off. But the truth has a way of showing up, slowly then all at once. And when it finally did, it changed everything. It started small. It always does. One evening, Emily came home late, hair slightly messy, perfume different from the one she usually wore. She dropped her purse on the couch, sighed and said, "I just need some space, Jake. You're too available sometimes." I remember standing there, confused. Too available? Wasn't that what a good boyfriend was supposed to be? I didn't argue. I just nodded, thinking she was probably stressed from work. But space quickly became her new favorite word. She started working late more often. At first it was once or twice a week. Then it became almost every night. When I offered to pick her up from work, she'd text back, "Don't worry, I'll grab a ride with coworkers." I believed her, because that's what trust does. It makes you ignore your gut when it starts whispering that something isn't right. Her phone habits changed too. She used to scroll beside me on the couch, showing me memes or cute animal videos. Now her screen was always tilted away. Notifications came in late at night, and when I'd glance over, she'd flip the phone face down like it was muscle memory. When I asked about it, she laughed. "Jake, you're getting paranoid. It's just work chats." I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then there was Chris, my best friend. My brother in everything but blood. He started acting strange around the same time. Our usual Friday beers turned into last-minute cancellations. He'd text me, "Can't make it tonight, man. Busy." No explanation, no rain check. When we did hang out, the energy was off, like he was trying too hard to seem normal. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He'd fidget, check his phone constantly. At first, I thought maybe something was going on in his personal life. Maybe money problems or stress at work. I even asked him once if everything was okay. He smiled, tight, unconvincing, and said, "Yeah bro, all good. Just a lot on my plate." Still, something about it didn't sit right. I noticed Emily mentioning his name more often. "Chris said this." Chris recommended that. They'd always gotten along, sure, but lately it felt different. A little too casual. Too familiar. One weekend, she told me she was heading to a marketing conference out of town. I didn't think twice, until I realized Chris was also out of town that same weekend for a friend's bachelor party. Coincidence, right? That's what I told myself as I scrolled through their social media that night. Nothing suspicious. No tags. No photos. Just silence. But silence can be loud when you know someone's lying to you. The next few weeks felt like living with a ghost. Emily was there, but not really. She'd come home late, eat in silence, and go straight to bed. If I tried to talk, she'd sigh and say she was tired. I started to feel like a guest in my own relationship. And then came the sentence that officially ended the version of her I thought I knew. Jake, I think we need a break. I need to figure out what I want. There it was, the polite, modern breakup phrase that translates to, I already know what I want, and it's not you. Still, I tried to stay calm. I told her, if space is what you need, I'll give it to you. But deep down I already knew. Space wasn't what she wanted. She just needed room to hide what she was really doing. And I had no idea that Chris was part of it all. Not yet. The human mind is funny. It can sense when something's wrong long before it has proof. For weeks I'd been walking around with that weight in my chest, the one that whispers, you already know, you just don't want to see it. Then came the slip-up. It was a Saturday morning. Emily had left early, saying she was meeting a client across town. I was doing laundry when her tablet, yes, the one she rarely used, pinged on the coffee table. A message preview flashed on the screen before it locked again. It was from Chris. It read, had an amazing night. Same place next weekend? I froze. The world went silent. It felt like my heartbeat was suddenly the loudest thing in the room. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was about work. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But deep down I knew. The client meeting, the late nights, the sudden need for space, it all started connecting. I tried unlocking the tablet, but it was password protected. Funny thing is, I set that password. She never changed it. And when the screen opened, there it was. Messages, photos, a whole conversation that made my stomach twist. They weren't even subtle. Flirty texts. Pictures from hotel rooms. Plans for weekends I thought she was spending with her co-workers. And then the worst one, Chris telling her he loved her. My best friend. My girlfriend. Both lying straight to my face. I sat there for hours just staring at the screen. I couldn't even cry. My body didn't know how to react. It was like being underwater, soundless, weightless, unreal. Later that evening I called a mutual friend, Jenna. She'd known both of them for years, and I asked, half hoping she'd tell me I was crazy. There was a long pause on the line before she said, Jake? I didn't want to get involved, but, yeah, people have seen them together. I thought you knew. That sentence hit harder than any punch. So it was real. Everyone else knew, and I was the last to find out. I hung up and sat in the dark for a long time. I replayed every memory, the inside jokes, the double dates, the nights we all hung out watching movies. Every moment now felt staged. Like I'd been living in a play and everyone but me knew the script. That night, I drove to Chris's apartment. I didn't go in. I just sat outside watching the light in his window. At one point, I saw shadows moving, 2 figures. One of them laughed, and even from the car, I knew it was Emily. I could have walked up, knocked on the door, screamed, fought. But what would that do? They'd deny it. Or worse, they'd pity me. So I drove home. Quiet. Empty. The next few days were a blur. Emily texted me once, something short and cold. I think it's best if we don't talk for a while. No apology. No explanation. Just erasure. Chris didn't reach out at all. The silence from him said everything. But here's the thing about silence. It gives you time to think. Time to plan. Because while they were busy building their new life, I was slowly piecing together a plan of my own. Not out of anger. Not even out of heartbreak. Out of precision. If they were going to betray me so completely, I wasn't going to just walk away. No, I'd make sure the world saw them exactly for who they were. But I wouldn't do it with shouting or violence. I'd do it the way they'd never expect, from behind the calm, patient face they thought they'd destroyed. The night I closed that tablet, I made myself a promise. They would never see me coming. After that night, I didn't confront them. I didn't send a single angry message or make a scene. I did the opposite. I retreated. I smiled when they saw me, said the easy things, and pretended everything was fine. That silence made them careless. I started watching from a distance. Not stalking, just paying attention to what they freely put online. They weren't careful. They loved the attention. They loved showing off. And social media is full of little windows people forget are actually evidence. At first it was small, a selfie in front of new boxes, a caption about turning passion into profit, a blurry photo of a stack of designer goods. Chris liked every post within seconds. Emily tagged him in the comments with a heart. They were loud about their wins and quiet about the details that mattered. Then the post changed tone. Cash deals only this weekend, one caption read. Another boasted about no tax headaches, just pure profit. A story showed a handwritten receipt folded on a counter while the caption bragged about how easy the margins were. Their customers left comments about quick meetups and Venmo handles. None of it looked like a proper, registered business. No business name, no website, no invoices, just a parade of cash transactions celebrated in public. I took screenshots. I saved every caption, every DM screenshot I could find where they talked about margins and keeping it under the radar. I noted dates, locations, the neighborhoods they used for meetups. I copied conversations where they joked about not letting the tax man near this, and where Chris showed off a payment app saying, instant cash, no fees. They were building something that ran on secrecy and cash. Exactly the sort of thing that leaves a paper trail you can follow if you know where to look. Their arrogance made the trail obvious. Every boast, every brag, every careless photo was another brick in a path I could trace. I didn't act immediately. I didn't need to. I kept collecting. I organized screenshots into folders, labeled them by date and platform. I cross-referenced posts with their tagged locations and with the small marketplace listings that linked back to Chris's number. I made copies of messages where customers praised the no-invoice deals. It wasn't about vengeance for its own sake. It was about making sure what they'd built on lies and cash wouldn't survive the light. While they celebrated their freedom and their side hustle, I quietly built the file that would change everything. I spent a few evenings digging. It started with curiosity, but it turned into a quiet kind of obsession. I wanted to know exactly what they were doing, and how deep it went. First, I went through every post they'd ever made about the business. Instagram, Facebook Marketplace, even TikTok. Each caption bragged about being fully booked, about weekend drops, and cash pickups only. I took screenshots of everything. Dates, comments, customer messages, every digital footprint they left behind. Then I checked the state business registry. Nothing came up under Emily's name. Nothing under Chris's. Not even a DBA. For a growing brand, they didn't exist anywhere official. No licenses, no tax ID, no trace of legitimacy. Next, I looked closer at their payment methods. Their posts mentioned DM to order and pay through Zelle or Venmo. One story even showed Chris holding up his phone with a flood of payment notifications, laughing about being sold out again. I paused the story, zoomed in, and noted the usernames. It wasn't hard to find those accounts. They were public. I followed one of their Venmo accounts. It was full of transactions labeled with emojis, bag, shoe, watch. Sometimes customers even wrote, thanks for the deal, or for the LV bag. It was all out in the open. And the amounts weren't small, 500 here, 1,000 there, sometimes 2 or 3 in a day. I cross-checked the usernames of their buyers. Many were repeat customers. I found links to listings on resale platforms. Same products, same photos, same timestamps. They weren't just flipping a few items. They were running a business. A profitable one. From the looks of it, they'd made tens of thousands in just a few months. All cash. All off the books. They probably thought they were being smart. No taxes, no oversight, just easy profit. But the more I uncovered, the more I realized how arrogant they'd been. They weren't hiding anything. They were documenting their crimes in real time, smiling through it, tagging each other, and thanking the grind. By the time I was done, I had everything. Screenshots of transactions, links to sales listings, public posts, customer comments, even timestamp stories. It was a complete picture, a timeline of greed and stupidity. That's when the idea started to take shape. I didn't need to yell or fight or destroy them myself. I just had to hand the right person the truth, and let the system do the rest. I knew yelling at them would change nothing. Confrontation would have been loud and messy, good for a scene, bad for results. If I wanted their lives to actually unravel, I had to be surgical. I had to hand the truth to someone who didn't care about feelings, only facts, the people who collect the receipts. I spent the next week turning everything I'd collected into something that couldn't be ignored. Screenshots became exhibits. Stories and posts became a timeline. Venmo and Zelle handles, buyer comments, timestamps, tagged locations. Every scrap of evidence was copied, labeled, and filed. I made a spreadsheet that matched dates with posts and transactions. Where one post bragged about being sold out, I paired it with a payment notification screenshot from the same day. Where a story showed a stack of designer boxes, I matched it to a marketplace listing with the same photo and price. It wasn't glamorous work, it was tedious and precise, and that's exactly why it was effective. I wrote a clear, factual summary at the top of the file. No bitterness, no name-calling, just the facts. Who was involved, what they were selling, how payments were being collected, and the ways it looked like income was being concealed. I included direct links to the social media posts, usernames for the payment apps, copies of buyer comments, and screenshots of conversations where they joked about keeping the taxman away. I saved everything as PDFs and made sure each item was date-stamped and easy to follow. If someone wanted to verify, I wanted them to be able to do it in under 5 minutes. I considered mailing a printed packet, but digital was cleaner and faster. I decided to submit the information to the proper authority, an agency that deals with unreported income. I didn't want this to be about me, I wanted it to be about the evidence. So I prepared the report like an auditor preparing a case. Headline, summary, then detailed exhibits. I also thought about risks. If I sent it from an account linked to my name, it would bring questions I didn't need, questions that would drag me back into the mess. I wanted the consequences to land where they belonged, on the people who built their life out of lies and cash. So I kept my identity out of it. I submitted the package anonymously through the agency's reporting channel and attached the exhibits in a logical order. The cover message was short and clinical, a summary of suspected tax evasion and links to the supporting documentation. After I hit send, I did one more thing, I scrubbed. Not because I had anything to hide from the investigators, my life was above board, but because I didn't want any breadcrumbs tying the submission back to me. I deleted working copies from my desktop, emptied the trash, and removed the temporary folders I'd used. I cleared browser windows, logged out of accounts I'd used to research, and erased search history. I didn't leave instructions on how to vanish, I just removed the unnecessary clutter of my curiosity. The files I'd turned into evidence were now in someone else's hands. There was nothing more for me to keep. Then I went silent. No calls to mutual friends. No posts. No comments. A neutral inbox. I let the world keep its noise while I waited for the only thing that mattered. Results. I didn't gloat. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done. If karma was a machine, I had flipped the switch and walked away. Days turned into weeks. I told myself not to check every rumor or whisper that reached me. I stopped looking at Chris's social feed for the first time in months. I learned the awkward art of patience. It's strange, the harder you push for closure, the farther it seems. So I let it be. I knew that an agency would move slowly, and that there were paperwork processes and reviews. That was fine. The system didn't need my attention to do its work. I had given them a neat, undeniable map of activity. It was their job to follow it. And so I waited without watching, confident that the evidence was exactly what it needed to be. It took about 3 months before I heard anything. By then, I'd almost stopped thinking about it, almost. Life had gone back to normal for me, work, gym, quiet weekends. Then one afternoon I got a text from an old friend we all used to hang out with. "Hey man, have you heard about Emily and Chris?" I stared at the message for a while before replying. "No, what happened?" The next few messages came rapid fire. Their business accounts had been frozen, their page was gone, and apparently, they were under audit for unreported income. Someone had tipped off the authorities about their little operation. My friend said it like it was gossip. I read it like confirmation. I went online and checked their profiles out of curiosity. Their business page was deactivated. Chris's account was locked. Emily's once perfect feed was silent. The hashtags, the hustle quotes, the bragging, all gone overnight. Through mutual circles, bits of the story started to surface. The audit wasn't small. Their payment records had been traced, their sales matched to undeclared transactions, and their social media posts had been used as supporting evidence. Everything they'd boasted about publicly had come back to bite them, hard. Their bank accounts were frozen while the investigation played out. They were hit with back taxes, penalties, and interest. Chris had to sell his car to cover legal fees. Emily moved out of the apartment they used for photo shoots. It got repossessed later. Then came the real fallout, the part money couldn't fix. The two of them started blaming each other. Chris accused Emily of being careless, saying her posts made them targets. Emily said it was Chris's fault for not handling the paperwork properly. Friends who'd once tagged along for their business dinners, now avoided them like a bad rumor. Within a few months, they weren't even together anymore. Emily moved back with her parents, and Chris disappeared from social media completely. The last thing I heard was that they were both still paying off fines and arguing over who owed what. I didn't celebrate. There was no need to. Watching the silence they'd once filled with noise was enough. Their downfall wasn't explosive, it was slow, suffocating, and perfectly fair. And the best part? They never suspected a thing. Not once. As far as they knew, the universe had simply caught up with them. For me, that was the cleanest victory possible. No confrontation. No fingerprints. Just justice quietly delivered. Time passed and life steadied. I got a new job, one that actually challenged me in the right ways. I moved to a quieter place, started focusing on things I'd let slip. Reading, cooking, sleeping without that knot in my chest. Eventually, I met someone new. She didn't know about any of the chaos from before, and I liked it that way. With her, there were no secrets, no constant second-guessing. Just honesty and peace. It felt unfamiliar at first, but in the best way. Every once in a while, I'd think about Emily and Chris. Not out of anger, more like curiosity. I'd wonder if they ever looked back and realized how easily they built their own downfall. How every post, every caption, every cash-only sale was another thread in the web they spun around themselves. What I did wasn't out of hate. I wasn't trying to destroy them, I was trying to restore balance. To remind them, and maybe myself, that actions have weight. You can't betray people and think the world won't notice. Sometimes karma moves slow, but when it needs a little help, I don't mind giving it a nudge. Looking back, I don't regret it. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't stoop to their level. I just handed the truth to someone who deals in facts, not feelings. And that was enough. In the end, revenge wasn't fire or fury, it was peace. The kind that comes when the scales finally even out. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and a well-documented PDF. Last I heard, they had to sell their house to cover the rest of their legal fees. The business never recovered, and neither did their relationship. Chris took a job out of state, and Emily's been keeping a low profile ever since. No more hashtags about hustle or freedom, no more pictures of designer boxes stacked high. Just silence. It's funny how life gives people exactly what they ask for, just not in the way they expect. She said she needed space. Now she's got all the space she needs, between her, her ex-business partner, and their tax attorney. And as for me, I got exactly what I wanted too. Not revenge, not vindication, just peace. Remember, karma's never late, it just waits for the paperwork to clear.